Hey guys, it's a beautiful sunny afternoon in Athens, and it's starting to get cold, so we're about 5 weeks out from Christmas. Christmas decorations are going up, and the weather is starting to cool quite dramatically, which is, to be expected, I suppose. Most Christmases, around Christmas Day, it's going to snow. So I would not be surprised if it did that this year as well. So January, February are bloody miserable here, and certainly not like Australia, particular Brisbane, from where I'm from. But it is what it is. As you can see, most people walking the streets here without face masks. I don't think too many people give a flying, what, in regards to being restricted to enter different shops. And the simple reason why is because most people need to earn a living, and that's just the facts of the matter, isn't it? So I think I'm optimistic in one aspect. As I've said to you before, you need to be bold, you need to be consistent, you need to be audacious in making the decision that you want to make. If you want to relocate, then relocate. It's start setting about making a plan. Put a spreadsheet together regarding all the things that you're going to have to get in order. I did have someone message me and say, what is how do you epistle a document? Basically, what it is, and I've described this in a video before, it's an agreement that was brought together like a Geneva agreement. I think it was around the 1940s. Don't quote me on that, on the precise year, but it's basically an agreement where the signatories, or people who agree to that particular agreement, will recognise the documents that have been apostolized or given an epistle stamp. And if I'm not mistaken, I think it's actually, it means letter. But it's a stamp that goes on, and it's basically saying that this is an official document that's been authorised by the federal government of the country that has issued it. Because a lot of documents are actually issued by local and state governments. So they're not so much done by the federal, like birth certificates or family certificates and marriage certificates, etc. So, or death certificates, whatever. So a lot of this stuff is put together by local and state governments or provincial governments, as opposed to the federal. So keep that in mind. You'll need those if you're going to relocate. You'll want them, because if you've got a document that's purely just been drawn up by a local government, then it will not be recognised. So save yourself a lot of heartache and trouble, and go and get those documents printed off by your state or local government or provincial government, depending on where you are in the world, and then go get that epistle put on so that it's recognised internationally. I hope I've explained that clearly now. So yeah, lots of changes coming. I'm not sure that Europe is going to be a lot better than anywhere else. At this point in time, I think that Greece is a lot better than Australia. As you can see, I'm walking the streets and I don't have a face mask on. And I've just been to the markets and done my weekly shopping. And we didn't have any issues at all. So there's no real restrictions on that aspect. But I mean, you do need a vaccine certificate or a negative PCR test, or you need to have a document that says if you've got antibodies after having COVID or whatever it is. So That's what you'll require if you want to get around everywhere without any limitations. So, that being said, is Greece still a better place than Australia to migrate to? In my estimation of things, yes, for now. As I've always said in other videos, the real name of the game is PT 5 Flags, or Perpetual Traveller. You've got to see yourself as a global citizen. So it may not be perfect here during the winter. Doesn't mean that you don't migrate for a period of time to another location like Georgia or wherever you're going to be treated better. And just keep that in mind, because if you have this mentality, particularly in this time where things are changing so rapidly, that you're going to migrate and that's it, you're going to put your roots down and you're not going anywhere, and things will remain the same, then you're going to be completely and utterly disappointed, and you're going to feel like you wasted your money. So the real name of the game is to set yourself up as an international corporation. International corporations basically take the best of every domicile and use it to their advantage, and that's what you want to do. You want to set yourself up as an international organization. So when you set up a company, that company is a limited liability corporation. It's its own entity, and it's recognized legally as its own entity. And you want to set yourself up in the same way that someone would set up a corporation, being positioned in different places around the world. That's the name of the game. So one of the keys when you make decent money is to own nothing, control everything. You do not want to have anything in your name. You want to have trust funds and corporations or limited liability companies set up that control and hold different assets that you have. And that's really what you want to be able to do, is actually look at the way of setting these things up. You're setting yourself up as an international company with various assets and domiciles. You want to use those domiciles or the ability to reside in different places with permanent residencies and citizenships to your advantage. Now, I'm just saying this in particular for this time period because we're in an interesting time where things are changing so rapidly. You might sort of sit there and say, oh, look, I'm going to move to Mexico. Mexico might not be a really great fit in the long run. Mexico could change its policies tomorrow. A war could break out tomorrow. And that's going to change things completely. What you have to look at here is, are you going to be agile? If you're not going to be agile, you need to really come up with your strategy, because things are changing so fast. So keep that in mind when you're looking at this PT 5 Flags. It's based on W.G. Hall's book. Now, I'm not saying you've got to have the same setup all the time, because basically when you look at these setups, it's trying to see yourself as a global entity with assets in different locations. So that's the way you want to look at it. I know there's a lot of people who are saying, oh, look, you moved to Europe and oh, look what's happening there. The difference between Eastern Europe and Western Europe is chalk and cheese. The ability for Western Europe to enforce different mandates is completely different to the resources available to governments within Eastern Europe. So they're not going to have the resources to enforce mandates, not the same. So just keep that in mind when you're looking at this stuff and you're saying, oh look, I told you this wouldn't work out the way that you thought it would. And whenever I hear that, I just sit there and think, you still haven't gotten. So, and that's the problem. Most people will never understand what it is that we're trying to achieve here. What we're trying to achieve is actually being location independent. So you want to be location independent, not location dependent. You certainly don't want to sit there and be dependent on any particular government or be subjected to any particular government. You want to be independent of government. So that's basically what I'm trying to get across. You need to see yourself as an international citizen, like an international corporation with assets in different areas around the world. So when you're talking about owning properties in Greece, owning properties, say, in Georgia, having permanent residency in Europe, and then you've got permanent residency in, might be Seychelles, wherever. What you're basically trying to do is give yourself the right or the ability to reside in different places around the world at different times, whatever best suits you, rather than being subjected to one particular government who demands that you do X, Y, and Z within a particular time frame. Keep that in mind when you're looking at your strategy. I mean, you could say get permanent residency in Greece, which is going to give you the cheapest access to permanent residency to the other 27 European EU countries. But then you may go and reside in somewhere like Georgia. Georgia will afford you a 12-month visa, particularly if you're an Australian citizen, for very little. And that's going to be very beneficial to you in the long run. So just keep that in mind. There's various strategies.